It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Very great to have you in studio with us today. Prescott National Forest wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher joins us again. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It's always fun to have you.
Thanks.
Wildlife is something I'm always interested in, and we've been sitting here for, 20 minutes now, and you've told me a bunch of stuff I never knew before. So we're going to talk about the bald eagles and the peregrine falcons, who will be back in the area, if not already.
Well, the bald eagles are back, definitely.
Okay.
Yep, breeding season started yesterday.
Yesterday,
officially
December 1st.
On the calendar, but they were back probably the end of October, middle to the end of October. They started coming back in the area, but that's the winter population. The breeding is where the pairs are, and so most on the Prescott, the main places we have them are along the Verde River. There are a couple different territories, and then the one that I'm most familiar with is the one at Lynx Lake. Interesting story, backstory on that is they didn't nest at Lynx Lake until after my predecessor, Dan Taylor, put a platform up for osprey and encouraged osprey to come nest at Lynx Lake because it's stocked with rainbow trout for fishing.
Sure.
And the osprey came, and the osprey took the platform, built a big old stick nest, and then that fell down, so they built another one over in a snag. And they come in about February or March. Well, one year they came to come back, and it was occupied because the bald eagles come in December.
Hey, that's a nice place.
And, you know, possession's 9/10, right?
Right.
And so they were there first. And once the bald eagles moved in, the osprey tried to nest one year away from the lake, a little bit down the road, and then come back. And put it in human terms, the bald eagles wouldn't tolerate the osprey in the pantry. So they ran them off, and Lynx Lake became a bald eagle nesting site instead of an osprey nesting site.
And bald eagles, they're bigger than the osprey, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
Yeah, they are. They're bigger. They were there first. For sure, but but the osprey started it, and then the bald eagles took over the osprey nest. Literally, where the osprey had been the year before, the bald eagles moved in the late 90s.
Are we still doing the closures?
We
Are those
aren't.
in effect?
You know, for the bald eagle, we aren't because they moved their nest site away from the lake.
Okay.
And we only needed that when they were nesting close to the lake, where they were going to be experiencing maybe some disturbance from recreation, from either hiking or boating or fishing and things like that. But now the nest is further away, and they only come to the lake to forage. And if they aren't at Lynx, they're going to Watson and Willow, which I affectionately call Golden Corral. There's so much food there between the fish and the migrating waterfowl. There's so much food that they do just fine with no closures.
Do we know if the Ladders and Towers locations, the one in Clarkdale and one in Camp Verde, are going to be closed this year?
We would expect them to be closed, absolutely.
And that's coming up soon.
It should be, yeah. The Verde has a little different timeline than the Lynx one. Yes, those should be coming up. What happens is we like to put the closures in place so that the animals have the opportunity to have a quiet place to begin the breeding season. Because if you don't have that quiet part at the beginning, you don't really have the rest of the breeding season. So we like to have that quiet time.
When they fledge their young, do the young always return to the same area, or will they, like maybe one that's fledged in Prescott, maybe next year it decides Roosevelt Lake looks like a nice place, or Lake Pleasant looks like a nice place to go to?
The Arizona birds are probably going to come back to Arizona. We had a nestling at Lynx Lake. We ended up naming her TC after Tom Carney, who used to work on the Prescott and was a recreation manager. And TC, we ended up putting a transmitter on her. And the transmitter was really small. We put it on her back. There's a picture of her, I think, with a hood, and it helps to calm her down. And once you, when you're handling raptors, you hood them, and then they're calm. And in the picture, she has blue, like little fleece booties on, and that's because for raptors, their weapons are their feet.
Oh, I imagine very dangerous.
Yes.
That and their wings.
And if you
probably
put a
hurt
little
really bad.
fleece booty over their feet, you're safe and they're safe. And the hood calms them down. Well, we put the transmitter on TC and then put her back in the nest. And that summer, in early July, her parents left because they were done breeding for the year, and she went with them, and they headed north, and they went, and there's the map with the actual GPS points from the
real
Game and
quick,
Fish.
Noelle brought a bunch of pictures too, so those listening on radio would want to pull this up later and take a look at some of the photos she sent. The eagles are much bigger than you'd think they are. But anyways, you've got a nice map outline of how it kind of cut through Colorado, Wyoming, up through the Dakotas, and then wound up in southern Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah.
That is quite a trek.
And she did it in 3 weeks.
Oh, amazing.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Very impressive.
And we were talking earlier about how the people joke that the bald eagles are the original snowbirds because they come down here in the winter and they head north in the summer when they're following the food supply for them. Because if you think about it, in June and July, the waterfowl are breeding like crazy up north. That's their breeding season. And so the eagles go up there because that's mainly, they like to eat fish, waterfowl, and carrion or carcasses. But they're following the waterfowl for food and things like that.
Then they come back here
and then they come back here for the winter, for December through June.
So where's TC today?
I don't know. We would probably be able to follow up with the Game and Fish. They end up banding bald eagles.
They all are, aren't they?
Only
no?
the ones where they can safely access the nest.
Okay, that makes sense.
For TC, it involved climbing a ponderosa pine tree. And they had to climb up in the pine tree, and it's interesting because they take the eaglet and they hood them. So they calm down, and then they put the booties on, and they put them in a black bag, and they lower them down out of the tree. And then on the ground, we'll be taking measurements. We'll be measuring the beak, and it's fascinating. There's one measurement that they can take, and it is the width of the foreleg.
Okay.
That one measurement will tell you the gender of the bird, male or female. One measurement.
What is the difference? Male bigger or smaller?
What do you think?
I'm going to say the male's smaller.
Why?
Because they don't breed.
No.
Well, no, they do breed. I mean, they don't. I don't know.
Okay.
I just feel like the male is smaller.
In raptors, the female is larger for a couple of reasons. So the male is smaller, the female is larger.
I feel quizzed.
No, it's good.
Yes.
And there's no overlap in their size of their legs. So if you get one measurement, you know if it's a male or a female. The reason the female is larger is because if you have two different sized birds, you have a much broader choice of prey items, food. They don't compete with each other.
Okay.
Where a male might take a cottontail, a female might be able to take a jackrabbit. And he might take a squirrel, and she might take something a little bit bigger. So you have, by them being different sizes, you have more food coming to the table, coming back to the nest.
A wider variety, huh?
You've got more food in the pantry.
I'll be darned.
And then both genders will incubate, but if the male is off and something happens to him, hits a power line, is electrocuted, is hit by another predator, or something happens to him.
She can cover more of the nest?
When she goes and brings a food item back, she brings one food item is going to be more food than a male bringing a food item back because she's bigger. Each trip is going to be a bigger bang for the buck, more food.
Gotcha.
It's easier for her to support them on her own than for a male to support them on his own because he's smaller, not bringing as big a food item. He has to make more trips to bring the same amount of food.
I'll be darned. Let's take a break already.
Really?
I know.
Okay.
Prescott National Forest wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
We finally bought a place.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
So at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save. How is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing.
Wow! I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Oh, not again.
Welcome back to Countywide. Noelle Fletcher, wildlife biologist for Prescott National Forest in studio today. We're going to wrap up our talk on the eagles real quick. Okay. What's their current status?
The current status is they are federally protected under the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act of 1940 and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. They have recovered from off of the Endangered Species Act, so
That's
they
awesome.
are no longer on it. It is, as is our next topic, the peregrine falcon.
The peregrine falcon, because they'll be coming back as well.
They've recovered from the Endangered Species Act. They are still protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, but they have recovered from their endangered status.
Much smaller bird we're going to be talking about now, isn't it?
Much smaller.
Much faster.
Fastest bird in the world.
Fastest
200 miles per hour.
200?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
They like to take their food in the air, on the wing. So they'll just snatch it.
How dramatic.
It is. It is. It's pretty cool. I watched a peregrine at Granite Mountain defending its nest, its territory. This was in the spring. They didn't want other birds in the way, and a peregrine hit a raven in midair.
Oh, wow.
Didn't bode well for the raven.
Right. I imagine. So is that how they do that? That protect? They just fly out there and just come at you?
They kind of hit with their feet. They'll go really fast and then.
But going 200 miles an hour, what an impact!
It is. It's pretty cool. It is.
Are they back? They're coming back soon.
They come back in February.
Okay.
They come back in February, and their two favorite places, at least on the Bradshaw Ranger District, are Granite Mountain, which is where they really started. That's where they got their foothold, and then, which is interesting. They were nesting there for the longest time, and we started the closure. Once we started doing the closure at the beginning of February, we started having some very successful nesting attempts. And typically raptors will have 1 to 2 young. They were producing 2 to 3 young every year.
Nice.
And that tells me that they have a very, very productive territory. A lot of food. That means the female's in good condition going into the nesting season, and they have plenty of food to raise their young. Well, they were so successful that in 1997, I was home on maternity leave, and I got a frantic phone call. We've got peregrines at Thumb Butte. What do I do? I'm like, put a closure up. They started nesting at Thumb Butte, which was maybe not the best habitat, but was suitable. And so now we regularly have them at Thumb Butte as well.
So the original pair, was it one of their fledglings that decided to move in next door?
I would think it is. I don't know for sure, but I would think it is.
Do we ban them?
We don't ban them as often. We can. We never did. We do ban on the bald eagles, to finish up on that. When they banned them, they can tell their gender, the year they were born, and their location by the color and the placement of the band on the bald eagles. That's what the Game and Fish does.
Good.
So through a pair of binoculars, you can look and go, oh, that's a yellow band on the right leg. It must be a female from Lake Pleasant or something like that.
Oh,
There's
cool.
a whole science or a procedure for that. And so it's kind of cool. But the peregrines are tiny. I mean, they're hard to, they look like flying ants. They're, because you don't get that close to them. And it's
Again,
fun
a
to watch them.
precarious location to build a nest too, right?
It is a precarious. There's some really cool pictures in there of peregrine nest sites just on the, they call it a scrape. It's literally a rock ledge that they move the rocks off of, and they lay their eggs and hope they don't roll, you know?
Oh, man.
And the Granite Mountain has some beautiful nest sites up in there, and the biggest challenge is balancing what people want with what wildlife needs. People want to climb. They love to climb.
It's a popular climbing place.
It's really, really, really
Right.
popular. And because it's so unique, and for the same reason, that's what makes it a good peregrine nesting site. But there aren't that many places for peregrines to nest. And so we're balancing the demands on that unique site so that we have it for peregrines every year and we have it for climbers every year.
So what's great for us for climbing is also, so we have to share.
Yes, we do.
It's also
We do.
great for the peregrines.
That's
as
the
far
idea,
as
is to
nesting,
share.
keeping predators away from the young. That's the main reason why they're on the side of a cliff.
Right.
Nothing can get to their young.
Right. I mean, there's a picture I think I have of a peregrine nesting in downtown Phoenix. And so that's usually the argument I get. They don't need Granite Mountain. They've got Phoenix. And it's like, that's not their first choice. They're making do with what's available. Their first choice is the natural environment where they naturally, the habitat that they like to use. And so that's Granite, that's Thumb Butte, Sycamore Canyon, a lot of, but the Grand Canyon, that's, every mile and a half at one point there was a peregrine nest.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah, but they need some space from each other because they need the the food and the just the room,
Space.
Yeah.
A little bit of space.
Yeah, definitely.
Do they base how many young they have on the weather pattern that we're going through, whether there's a lot of food available or not available? I hear that about like rattlesnakes and coyotes, that they'll say, okay, it's a really dry year, we're only going to have 2 pups. Next year, it's a really wet year, they have 6.
What happens is the condition of the female going into the breeding season determines how many eggs she may lay.
Okay.
And then the food availability, they don't know what the weather pattern is going to do. They may lay 3 eggs and only have enough food for 1 nestling.
Only the strong
And
survive
it's what it's the amount of food they can bring back that they can support. The other thing that we were going to talk about is that the Prescott's just a little part of the peregrines world and the bald eagles
You know
world.
what? Let's take our second break and then we'll come back, because that is really awesome. The migration. The migration of the peregrine. Okay, let's do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher in studio with the Prescott National Forest. I'm Paul David, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born, and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
I've got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
get out to the forest.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's gonna be so much fun. Yeah! Woo-hoo!
Hey, guys, wait up!
And discover the wonders of nature with your family.
These trees are the key to our way of life.
Fresh air.
What a glorious morning!
Clean water.
Woohoo! This is great!
And endless forest adventure.
Let's rock this jungle!
Yo, this is untapped territory.
How amazing!
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got about 4 minutes left of the program. Noelle wants to talk very much about, we talked a little bit about the bald eagles migration.
Going north.
Going north.
Right.
Right. But the peregrines, it's a little different story. And you mentioned just before we took the break that we are a very small spot on their map.
We are.
Travel.
You know, it was fascinating. I was doing some things for Migratory Bird Day, and it was all about migration, so I thought I'd do a little homework on it. And I went to pull up maps of the peregrines' territory and where they're found, and they were all really similar. I'm like, well, how do they know this? You know, how do they know where peregrines live and where they don't live? And I found a really cool one where they put a GPS on peregrines. They did a study, and it just showed their migration patterns between North and South America. And they literally go from Canada, the Arctic Circle, all the way down to the tip of South America.
That's amazing.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
And what's even more fascinating is, you know, they put these things on peregrines, which are a good-sized, I say a good-sized bird, but that's all relative. You know, a bald eagle's huge, a peregrine's small, but little passerine birds, little warblers and sparrows, they're making the same trip. They're tiny. And what we don't realize is our backyard is a stopover point.
Right.
Between Canada and South America. And that's when I wanted to get the message out. We need to be really responsible about
your backyard's a rest stop.
Your backyard, you know, whether it's the cat's time out in the backyard, your windows, how safe your windows are, you know, whether or not they look like a reflection of the outdoors. You could kill a bird right there. Or your feeder and the contents of it, make sure it's clean, it doesn't have bacteria and things like that, and that it's not near a window where a bird might get hurt. And so it was just kind of an interesting little research thing. Cats, house cats are responsible for billions of bird deaths, where the next nearest fatality is millions. And I mean, they're on an order of 10 times.
Cats are out there doing their job,
oh,
aren't they?
Man, they
Just
are.
Instinct,
they are.
you know?
Yeah,
Can't stop
it is.
that.
I know, you can't turn that off. And so, you know, we'll be doing habitat improvement projects on the forest, and then they stop in someone's yard and they don't make it out. So, you know, it's kind of a little ironic, but it's really cool to know that our Granite Mountain or Thumb Butte is on the way. A lot of people say that our peregrines stay in the area year round just because of the temperature. They can go down in elevation and get down into the cactus down, and they don't really need to leave the state. But the birds that are up in Canada and the northern U.S., they're going to go literally all the way to South America.
That is amazing. It's such a long. And how long do we know how long it takes to fly?
Well, they do it every year.
Right. And we have our closure on Granite and Thumb Butte. You said it lasts for about 6 months. Starts February
1st to July 15th.
Okay, so 6 months out of the year, they at least
are here,
are someplace,
right?
And raise their young.
And so they're doing that up in Canada or Idaho, and then they head south, and then they turn around and come back. So it's it's 3 months down, 3 months back, or it's a month down, spend a couple months, and then come back. Swainson hawks, which are in the grassland, they were going down there eating lots of locusts, and they found that they were being impacted by the insecticides, and so they're working with the governments and the people down in South America to say, let the Swainsons control your locusts instead of you controlling them, because, yeah, their numbers were declining hard, but they're good.
We're out of time.
Oh.
I know, it goes so fast, doesn't it? We have to have you more often, definitely. Wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher in studio today. I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.